Welcome back to Tiny Grimes Games, and I'm here with another Star Wars Destiny video. And today I'm going to bring you some more spoilers all week. Today we're going to focus on the characters that haven't yet been spoiled from the new Spirit of Rebellion set. And so we're going to start with Aurra Sing, who at first glance looks amazing, but I've figured out that I think this is the General Grievous of this set. Let's talk about her. So Aurra Sing is a yellow character. She has a 1, a 2, and a 2 damage, but before you resolve this die, you may discard a card from your hand to increase its value by 1, essentially making her a 2, a 3, and a 3 range damage, which is, I think that's the best damage in the entire game, just from the raw sides. And a 2 discard, a 2 disrupt is fine, 2 resources is great. And she's only 14, 18, which isn't that obscene. Like, she could easily be 16, 20 or something. And so you would think, whoo, 12. That really gives me some room to really make some choices here. But at 10 health, just like Grievous, I think what we have here is this very explosive character that has very low health total. And so, yes, you're going to have games where you do sick things and burn down your opponent very fast. But then on the flip side, because you can only add 12 to her, that limits you to things like, Elite Politique. If you want to go 4 dice start, most likely you're going to end up as a 3 dice start. Are you back to something like Dooku? Maybe you go the Royal Guard so that you have something with Guardian built in. And yes, that seems okay because her dice seems so good. But in the end, I just don't think 3 dice Aurra Sing with 10 health is going to get you there. I think she's a trap card that looks so good. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we have enough healing with things like armor plating and hunker downs you can put on her, that maybe Aurra Sing will be a real thing. Especially if you run her with someone like Politique. You could just put a lot of the ranged weapons in this deck, and then just stick them all on Politique and make them have to kill, a 5-die Politique before coming back around to Aurra Sing. Maybe that gets you somewhere. I'm not convinced that it does. When I opened her the first time and saw her, I was like, oh my goodness. But really, the more I thought about her, I just don't think she's going to have an impact, even though I really hope she does. She seems amazing. All right, next we have the Jedi Acolyte. It's very calm, peaceful, serene. Pretty much a normal, cheap, non-unique Jedi kind of guy, much like the Padawan. Problem is, Padawan only costs 8, and he costs 9. That's a lot more than 8. I mean, 2 Padawans at 8 leaves you with 14. That means you could run Qui-Gon. You have a lot of options you could do. 2 Jedi Acolytes leaves you at only having 12 left, which is a lot more constricting, only having 12 left. You could still run Elite Ray, so maybe that's okay. But I don't know. When I look at the Acolyte, he seems like a really interesting support character. Not going to do a ton of damage. Before you resolve this die, you get to increase its value by 1 if it's showing the same symbol as one of your other dice. So if you're running him in a melee deck, you're obviously going to have more melee dice. But if you're trying to get his focus sides, it's a lot less likely that you're going to just happen to have another focus side laying around unless you're running a heavy focus stack. I mean, maybe something like Maz with the Jedi Acolyte gets you into some really interesting territory where you roll him out, you roll the 2, then you roll Maz, who happens to roll her focus side. You get to immediately resolve the Jedi Acolyte for a 3 focus, flip 3 dice, and then resolve one of them. I mean, that sounds amazing. I'm just not sure that's going to happen all that often. And then, getting extra resources, fine. Getting extra discard is usually kind of blah, unless it's a mill deck. So, I don't know. He seems incredibly flexible and interesting and cool. And at 8, I'd be a lot more likely to use him. But at 9, I look at him and go, for 9 costs, I get a dude who melts instantly if my opponent ever wants to melt him. So, I don't know. I tend to think we probably won't see a lot of him, but maybe there's going to be some cool deck. Maybe there's going to be a mill deck that really uses him and that extra mill side as a 2 mill. I mean, if you were running him in a mill deck, you'd have 2 for focus and a mill. And so it'd be really likely that you're going to hit those discard sides somewhere on some character. So he's interesting. I don't love him. We'll move on. Asajj Ventress. One of the more interesting cards in the set. Her dice are okay. 1 damage to 2 damage, very similar to Dooku. You have the flip side, which is the focus side, which is similar to Dooku. You don't have the discard. Instead, you have a disrupt, which could be pretty good, especially with what she wants. And her ability is amazing. After an opponent discards a card to re-roll, they have to discard another one. I mean, that's crazy, right? So, I mean, if you play her in any sort of mill deck, let's say you went Elite Ventress, Elite Jabba, that's a lot of milling that you're going to have happening there from hand. You should be able to mill their hand out pretty much every time, unless they just get lucky god rolls on you. The problem I have with her is she's pretty fragile for her cost. At a 12-15, she's only 9 health. Dooku's similar, but he has 1 more health, and he has, you know, this own self-mitigation, which makes him not fragile at all. Asajj scares me is the bottom line. I imagine I will initially steer clear of her until proven otherwise. But in this set especially, when I look at somebody with 9 health with a big target on them like Asajj, I think, that looks like a dead character to me. Like, that character looks dead. We haven't even started, and she looks dead. So, I don't know. She might be amazing, and she may be the centerpiece to an archetype, but I'm wary for sure. What's very cool about her is for 12, you get her ability. So you have 18 more, right? You can do whatever you want. You could do something like a Stormtrooper for 7 and then a single die Jabba for 11 and have some really cool possibilities where you don't have to get quite as much mill out of Jabba because Ventress is doing that job for you. Then you can do things where you're keeping her alive by moving damage over to that Stormtrooper. Eventually he dies, you bring him back. I mean, there's endless options that you can try with Ventress, and I think she's cool, and I want her to be great. I'm just a little nervous that low health and that much of a target on her makes her a dead Ventress. So hopefully I'm wrong on this. I really think she's a cool design. I hope she has a huge impact on the game. All right, the TIE Pilot. This guy is weird. He is really weird. He's nicely costed at only 8. He only has 7 health, but he's only 8, so that's fine. And his ability is amazing. When this die is in your pool, your other dice showing range damage cannot be removed by an opponent. That is an insane ability for somebody like Jango. You could suddenly run Jango with him. You do the single die Jango at 12, him at 8. It gives you 10 more to play around with. Maybe that's a Death Trooper. Yeah, you don't get the double die Bala with that combo, but maybe Death Trooper, Jango Pilot is pretty scary, especially when you just put all the redeploy weapons on them, and you can just keep re-rolling as long as this die is in the pool. That's pretty annoying. The trouble with him is he's all plus side, so you're really going to have to pair him in the right deck, right? And with Jango, that's not bad. Jango has a lot of base sides. A Death Trooper is a really great guy to pair him with. He has all those base sides, so I think he's going to have a pretty big impact on the game. I think there's going to be a meta deck that comes around that's with the TIE Pilot. I think he'll probably end up being a big part in whatever ends up being that 4 dice, 3 character kind of setup, if you can make that happen, or maybe even just a 3 character, 3 dice setup, just to make sure that they can't take care of your range damage. Because if they can't hit your range damage, you just get to roll it out and then keep re-rolling until you hit it all for the monster god roll. Whew. I mean, that's pretty insane. That is pretty insane. And we're going to see ways around this, I think, though, as we're going to see more decks that are running those supports that, switch dice to different sides. And so he doesn't make your dice immune, but he does protect them from a lot of the outs that people have for handling him. So he looks really cool. I look forward to seeing him in some decks. Now, the card. This dude, the Outer Rim Smuggler. Boy, does he look innocent. I think he might be mechanically broken. So let's take a look at him. 8 costs, perfect. The same price as a hired gun, much less health at 7. So that's a little bit scary. But his ability is insane. After you play the last card from your hand, gain a resource. Okay, that sounds pretty good. And his dice are pretty good too. You get a damage, a 2 damage, a discard, a disrupt, a money. He's fine. He's not amazing. He's fine. What makes him really scary for me from a mechanical standpoint is there's no limit on this ability, and you can have 2 of them. So you can do some really simple things like I'll play Rearm. I'll play Rearm. I will get 2 resources for playing Rearm if I have 2 of these guys. So I'm netting a resource and a weapon. Cool. I will play a promotion and get a card and $1 because I'm paying 1 to get 2 back. And then whatever that card is, if it's free, let's say it's a Hunker Down, I'll play that. And then I get $2 more. So like just by playing a promotion, I netted myself $3. And so I was originally thinking this. I'm like, boy, man, you can really get some vehicles or heavy stuff out fast. This is going to be potentially really strong. I mean, you can go all in, right? You can go Don't Get Cocky, Award Ceremony, all kinds of cards that you can just sort of play one, get one back, and continue triggering his ability. And I was kind of excited about this. And I was like, this is really interesting. It opens up some possibilities here. You can have this sort of fragile deck that really needs its second chances fast to keep these guys alive. Maybe you put out a Falcon, a Launchbane, a U-Wing, and you just go to town. You can also sub these guys out in for hired guns with the Hyperloop deck. So you go Poe, 2 of these guys. You're making money really fast with your Hyperloop deck, much faster than you were before, making it easier to get out these cards that you wanted to get out, making it easier to get that damage out. But there's a problem, actually. Now, that all sounds really scary. The problem is, what happens with Return of the Jedi? Let's say you go turn 1, discard Return of the Jedi to reroll. Turn 2, you draw Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi costs 1. It says, go into your discard pile, get a blue card back. Let's say you have 2 smugglers on the table. So you play your Return of the Jedi to get back the Return of the Jedi that you discarded, taking a net of $1. Your opponent claims you do this forever. You can literally forever, till the round is over, keep playing a Return of the Jedi to get a Return of the Jedi, netting $1. The problem is you might say, well, you're technically not changing the game state, but you are. You're gaining money every time, so the game state is perpetually changing. And so what that means, or what that would mean, is all you have to do, if you get lucky, especially if you get lucky and get this in the first turn, all you have to do is do a damage. And if they don't do a damage, you've won the game. Because the tiebreaker is most damage done to a character. So it will end up being you thought Hyperloop was an annoying combo deck? Hyperloop had to do stuff every turn, giving you opportunities to electroshock that Falcon die, to do other things. This would give you 0 opportunity to interact at all. Turn 1, right? You don't roll very well, and you're like, man, you know what? It's fine. I'll play a Saber. I'm kind of a fast deck. I'm going to claim. And, go ahead. I mean, you're not really doing anything anyway. You're already resolved. Whatever. You have 2 smugglers and a Luminara. I'm not too scared. And then you do the combo, and you win turn 1 by just doing 1 single damage with an Outer Rim Smuggler. I mean, that's really bad. I mean, obviously that's not going to happen all that much, but I can conceive of a whole deck built around this infinite combo that would actually be reasonable, because you can play willpower to get a damage, to get rid of a damage. You can play cheat to get back that willpower. You could conceivably willpower 4 times. If you're making some money with the smugglers, you can play cards like reversals, which will be doing damage to them and preventing damage to you. I don't think it's that unreasonable to think that by the time you pick up the second half of this combo, that you will be in an okay spot, especially if you get an early second chance or 2 and basically make these Outer Rim Smugglers unkillable. What I'm not saying is I think this is the best deck in the meta, not by any stretch. Maybe it is. I have no idea. I haven't begun to try to test it or build it. What I'm saying is a theoretical deck that has an infinite combo that can be triggered as early as turn 1, that is an automatic win, that I don't think is one of these magical Christmas land scenarios where you're like, I need this to happen and this to happen and this to happen, and all this happens. Those decks, I'm like, whatever. If you have an infinite combo deck that wins 1 out of 78 times by an infinite combo, whatever, your deck's irrelevant. I don't care. My point is, I'm just not sure that this deck fits into that spot. It might. I don't know. It might. But if it doesn't, let's say it wins half the time, and it wins every time by an infinite combo, boy, that is not good for the game. So I'll probably try to stream this deck this week, try to build it just to see how it can be. So if you want to check that out, go to Twitch Tiny Grimes. Yeah, I'll be streaming this deck along with a whole bunch of other decks, and I will be back tomorrow and the whole rest of the week with more and more spoilers. Hope you enjoyed the show. See you next time.